YouTube channel, Jay. Let's go! Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm joined this week by co-host of the Counted Out 7 podcast, my dear close personal longtime friend, Tyler. And Tyler, you are joining me as we continue along our journey of Card Subject to Change, our mini-series in which anything goes, and we have no idea what's coming next. This week, you are joining me for a very special episode. In fact, you are in the driver's seat rebooking. How you doing, pal?
Grow up, Jay. Had to give my pop to Tyrone there. Big love to Tyrone. I'm going to try my best to fill in here the unfillable shoes of Tyrone, but thanks for having me, man. Very excited. I've wanted to rebook this card probably since you announced that you were doing this show. I'm pretty sure I texted you like the week after and was like, I am rebooking Mayhem 99.
Yeah, well, you let the cat out of the bag there. We are rebooking WCW's offering of the inaugural Mayhem pay-per-view from November 21st, 1999, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, at the Air Canada Centre with an attendance of 13,839. The tagline was Night of Champions, and watching this card, got to tell you, if this is a Night of Champions, I think maybe I'm going to skip Doug Flutie's Wheaties and maybe just not try to be a champion at all. This was an atrocious card. I know that you were there live, my friend, and why don't you just go ahead and share some memories and thoughts and feelings about you being there personally and live, and talk to us about the show.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this was a cool night for me. It was actually my brother's birthday. He was very young at the time, within the first, 2-3 years of his life. Actually, I think it might have been his second birthday. And we were having family over for dinner, and I was all upset. I really wanted to go to this card. I wanted to see Bret Hart live, and my mom said we couldn't go. It's your brother's birthday. And my uncle showed up, and he was like, "Hey, go do me a favor and wash my back window of my car." And I was in high school at the time. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I got to go somewhere tonight. I need to be able to see good." So whatever, Uncle. Wash the window out, and we come back inside. He goes, "All right, let's go. We're going to WCW Mayhem tonight." And I lost my mind. I had no idea I was even going to this show, which was super cool. When we got to the arena, little did I know, our seats were second row on the floor against the guardrails. So there are many points in this pay-per-view where you can see me on camera, especially during the Vampiro Berlin chain match. I'm all over that one. You can even hear me talking a little bit smack to Berlin there during that match. Quite a fun night. Obviously, getting to see Bret Hart live was fantastic. I'm always a big Bret Hart mark. I was a huge Chris Benoit fan at this time, so I was super excited. It was my first time ever seeing him live. And then just the undercard, seeing talent like Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Billy Kidman, getting to see Kurt Hennig fight again. All that stuff was, I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but I look back now and find myself very lucky to have seen such great talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember for myself, that's a great story. I love that story. I love the surprise. I love, sometimes I remember when you're a kid, you get those kind of surprises like that, even when you're in your teenage years, even now as an adult, I mean, you get a surprise like that, and it's just so much fun. And I kind of went back in my own memory of times that I was surprised in the same kind of way. And it's just such a great feeling to have. And I know, speaking for myself, I was such a big WWF mark at the time that I had the choice of either going to the house show in November, which was a few weeks before this pay-per-view, or to go to this Mayhem pay-per-view. And I opted to go to the WWF house show, just mainly because I just wasn't overly interested in what they were presenting at the time with the WCW product. But at the same time, I mean, in my mind's eye, I'd obviously wish I had kind of reversed my decision there and gone to the Mayhem pay-per-view.
I mean, the house show was probably a better card.
It was a good card. I mean, I remember that was back in the day when I used to bring like those disposable Kodak cameras to the event. And I had pictures of, Bulldog standing suplexing D'Lo for the European title. And I think it was Rock. Oh, what was the main event? I'm trying to remember. It was Rock
If you're November 99,
Yeah.
Brock probably was just the world champion at this point.
No, he wasn't the champion. Triple H was the champion because it was supposed to be Austin, Rock.
Oh, yes, sorry. I'm in
and
98.
then they hit him with a car. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in 1998 there.
Yeah, I don't remember right now what the main event was. It'll come to me at some point. But anyways, we're not talking about WWF today. We're talking about WCW. And so that's so cool that you got a chance to see it. Do you have the chair from it?
I do. I was going to say I have the pay-per-view chair from it. I recently found a bunch of the pictures that I took from this event as well. The Polaroid pictures, some nice ones of Kimberly Page and Bret Hart, Mean Gene. I got to shake Mean Gene's hand, which I was really excited about. I got a high five from Bret Hart, which I was pumped up about.
That's awesome.
I had a great time at this show.
Do you mind maybe sending me a couple of copies of those Kimberly Page pictures?
She looked fantastic on this guy. Oh my goodness.
She never looked better than she did in 99. Heard a little bit both. They both looked, I mean, not to be incredibly sexist or whatever, but they both looked incredible and enjoyed their work tremendously in the latter part of the 90s. So just as we go through this card, I mean, we're going to talk about kind of what's been going on. Tyrone booked Halloween Havoc 1999 last month, and I think we did a pretty good job of it. I mean, we finally got the title on Bret Hart going over Hulk Hogan clean in a sharpshooter. It was a face-on-face match. It was a lot of fun and exactly the way I think it should have gone at the time. Obviously, in a perfect world, we would have seen that at WrestleMania 10 or maybe SummerSlam 93, but obviously that was not the case. We're a couple of weeks removed from, Russo and Ferrara coming in and taking the reins at WCW. And you know what, Tyler, you and I were both kind of talking about this off air last night or yesterday afternoon. And I'm at this point still amazed by how quickly that company nosedived after these two guys took over. I was commenting to you that I thought that even for the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, it sort of seemed salvageable. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't completely disconnected and convoluted. By the time we get to Mayhem, this company is imploding. So
it's car crash TV at this point, right?
Yeah, it happened so quickly. So
here's my take on it. I'm going to kind of defend and bury Vince Russo at the same time, because Vince Russo, I think he gets a worse reputation. Well, maybe not, but he just didn't have anybody to pull the reins back on him anymore. And that's why him and Vince worked so well together in the Attitude Era, because he had somebody filtering out his bad ideas. And in WCW, he had full reign to do whatever he wanted. And there was nobody pulling the reins back on him and being like, Vince, this doesn't make sense, or Vince is stupid, right? In the WWF, it was always Vince McMahon with the final say. You had that creative team. You had Bruce Pritchard. You had Jim Cornette, Ed Ferreira. They were all working together to put this product out. So and not just Russo probably had bad ideas. I'm sure Ferreira and Cornette had their bad ideas as well. And as that committee, that team, they got to work together and filter out the crap. And in WCW, it was just like, it was Vince Russo's playground.
Well, that's just it. It was his playground, and he had no real restrictions other than the fact that I believe the programming at Turner was being toned down to be more suited towards the child-friendly audience, the child-friendly product. They were trying to be sort of the antithesis of what WWF was promoting at the time. But even at that stage, we're looking at the fall of 1999. If you think about it, a lot of the content that we were seeing was not child-friendly. I mean, even child-friendly content in the late 90s was not really child-friendly. So to me, I feel like that argument that, we were handicapped by having to, adhere to standards and practices doesn't really wash with me, because I'm still seeing a lot of stuff there that I wouldn't want my child to see, 7 years old.
Well, and I'll do
get drenched with blood, or, these, even if you look at what they were doing with the intergender women's matches and men's matches, and just making Medusa, for example, this sex object, and she one of the greatest female workers in the history of the business, and just turning into her valet, going out in her bra and panties and promoting the WCW cologne. That to me is not child friendly.
No, I'm with you, and I'll give a cheap plug here. I'm in the middle of rebooking of preparing a classroom lesson for Classic Match Classroom of Survivor Series 97, which is Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and the build for that is atrocious. It is so offensive. It was just not enjoyable to watch, and I don't know. I'm with you on that. I don't need to see that type of a product put out there any longer. I want to just see wrestling be wrestling. You know what I mean?
100%. I think you and I both have agreed in the past that neither one of us were particularly entertained by D-Generation X. Even when I was 14, 15 years old, I thought it was silly back then. I thought it was juvenile. I wasn't entertained by it. I mean, obviously, there's going to be certain aspects of the Attitude Era or the Monday Night Wars that were kind of enticing to kids of a certain age. We're teenagers, the Steve Austins, and there was the Undertakers and whomever else. D-Generation X never really did anything for me. And as we discussed earlier, I mean, there was a lot of objectifying of the female talent, which is completely inappropriate in today's environment. I'm not excusing it from 20 years ago or 25 years ago either. It was a different landscape and a different construct of the business. So I'm glad things have evolved.
Yeah.
But
I never found WCW to be that offensive especially compared to the WWF. Yeah, they did their stuff with Medusa here and there, and they, towards the end they would do their little mud matches and stuff, but it was pretty tame compared to what the WWF was doing at the time, and especially like overall as a product, it was less offensive than the WWF's product as well.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, I was just talking on last week's episode. I was just talking to James from that 90s wrestling podcast. And we were discussing, that infamous scene from Armageddon 1999 where the cat, took off her bubble wrap bikini and exposed her bare chest. And then, of course, the next month at the Royal Rumble, we saw the same thing with Mae Young, as well as, the Miss Royal Rumble, bikini contest, which was kind of just indicative of what was going on at the time. So I don't think, to your point, that WCW was going quite to that level of raciness, but the point is ultimately I'm just glad that we've evolved past that point. But watching these events in a vacuum, you can kind of understand what was going on at the time because we were growing up through that era. Whereas someone that might have not been watching the product, say Anthony from the Titantron podcast and the Classic Match Classroom, he started watching in 2009. So he might not really understand why these things are happening 20 years ago or 25 years ago, as opposed to how things are presented today, if that makes sense.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, my card does not have any offensiveness on it, except for maybe a couple of the guys on the show and their performances during this time period. But the in-ring performance might be offensive. Nothing I'm booking is offensive.
Okay, well, that's too bad. I was hoping that you were going to. I was hoping you were going to go full Russo on me, but that's totally fine. I'm good either way. So, with that being said, are you ready to get into this bad boy?
Yeah, I got some work to do to fix up what the mess that you and Tyrone made for me leading up into this thing.
Mess.
I'm burying you guys.
That's fine. You can bury me all you want. I mean, I'm gonna see if I bury you after this card. Are we going straight into the card? Do you have any dark matches for me? Do you have any?
Well, I've got to kind of paint a picture. I got to paint a picture leading up into this card here because you guys have Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart in your main event of Halloween Havoc, which I'm fine with. Although I did disagree with your points that you made on that show. We haven't talked about that. I think, unfortunately, this pains me to say, but Bret Hart in 1999, especially at this part of 1999, I don't think that he had the allure that you think that he still had at this point. And it's not because of Bret. I just think the bad booking that WCW gave him has pretty much destroyed him at this point. I do think that they could have salvaged his run a little bit had he not got hurt, but I don't think he was going to have a huge, popular, successful run. I just think that they buried him too much at this point.
Well, in my mind's eye, I think it's just more. My point was he had never been given the opportunity in that company, and I do agree to you to an extent that obviously by the time he was given the torch, there had been enough damage done to his credibility as an in-ring performer in WCW. I mean, he never really done much. He was the United States champion. I don't know if it was a television champion, but he was not doing a whole lot. So by the time he was given the spot, You know, what was he going to be able to contribute based on the fact of the way they booked him? So I do agree with you to an extent, but I do think that we'll never really know. I mean, had
Well,
they booked him properly, maybe,
I mean, even if you look at how they booked him after this show in the real world there, they put him with that terrible NWO Silver with Jarrett and Steiner and Nash. Like, it was just, I didn't like the direction they were going with that character, but I would have liked to have seen him had a proper run. I think if they would have kept him babyface and let him, have a good, old school Bret Hart 1994 title run where he just had great matches, I think it would have got over.
Okay, so two questions for you. Before, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but two questions for you. And the one might be a little bit controversial. I don't mean to make it sound, come off as offensive or what have you, but do you think Bret Hart's in this position in the fall of 1999 had things that happened previously in the year not happened, namely, the tragic death of Owen and things of that nature? Do you think that Bret would be in this position, or do you think he would have been marginalized still?
I mean, they didn't really even give him a great position after the Owen passing. Like, yeah, I know they put the belt on him, but like it just didn't. I just feel like after Montreal, I think that's where Bret Hart's spirits got killed. I think he came into WCW really optimistic, but I just think the lack of booking took Bret Hart out of it took him out of his love of professional wrestling. I think he was just going through the motions at this period, collecting a very hefty paycheck. And, he would still, not like he was phoning it in the ring, but I just don't think his heart was in it. He didn't believe in WCW, I don't think. And Vince McMahon said it to Bret in 1996. No one knows how to take care of you like I do. WCW won't know what to do with you. And they didn't. That being said, and again, I'm not shitting on Bret here because every time he stepped in the ring, he was still putting out fantastic matches. I just think bad booking and just lack of love for the game at this point really was the downfall of Bret Hart.
Okay, that's very fair. I don't actually disagree with that at all. So my second question is, all things being equal, how would you have booked Bret coming in? Just, the Cole's Notes version. How would you have brought him in?
Into WCW?
Yeah.
I would have had him come in against the NWO as a babyface. I would have had him not fight maybe I would have programmed him with Scott Hall right away, I think. Not the top dog in the NWO, but a really respected name. I think I would have had him and Scott Hall fight each other at Starrcade that year.
Okay, I'll take that.
They brought him in as a referee. Like, Bret Hart's the hottest. He was like the hottest thing in in wrestling at this period. Like, the screw job had the buzz going. I kind of would have had him and Sting fighting the NWO together, because in 1997, Sting and Bret Hart at this point, with the exception of Steve Austin, who was getting ready to explode but wasn't quite there yet, Sting was the most popular professional wrestler in 1997 in North America. It wasn't even close, right? Austin was about 3 months away from, changing the world in professional wrestling, I would say. You're talking November 97 here. Austin was 2 months away. Let's say 2 months away. Pretty much that Mike Tyson moment where Austin went to a different level, I think. I would have put Bret and Sting fighting the NWO together. I wouldn't have screwed around with Sting's title reign. I would have had him, and then maybe you turn to a Bret and Sting match the following Starrcade. You can kind of build that up over a year.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. When we did our rebooking of Starrcade 97, I actually had Bret go up against Randy Savage.
Yeah, that's a great name too.
Yeah, his first match coming in, and the story being told that, Savage had ducked him in the WWF and this and that, and then he took off and he never was willing to face him and what have you. So, I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to bring him in. The special referee thing, I mean, based on the fact that he got screwed over at Survivor Series, I think is just so Bush League. You can come up with something
terrible,
more creative.
It's terrible.
Yeah. But anyhow, I'll get us back on track here. The opening contest on the actual canon version of this card, it's an elimination tournament, and the first semifinal match is Chris Benoit defeating Jeff Jarrett. And so this is another interesting booking choice in the sense that Jeff Jarrett had just come into the company fairly hot off of his departure from the WWF in that angle he had with China. So a little interesting to me that Jarrett's, already doing jobs on pay-per-views. I would have tried to keep him strong, not dissimilar from what we just talked about with Bret Hart, obviously not to the same level, but you have Jarrett coming into the company with some degree of controversy. I don't know why you're having him job out to Benoit. Why not just put somebody else in that spot?
Yeah, I guess they wanted the all-Canadian final. If this event was held anywhere other than Toronto, I think you would have saw Jarrett and Bret in the finals instead. That's
Well,
just
I'm just
my
saying,
take on it.
why put Jarrett even in the match then? I don't know. I just feel like put Jarrett in some other program. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
That's another story. So what do you have for me, buddy? What do you have for the first match?
Well, I got to take us back to the next night after Halloween Havoc for you guys here. You got Bret Hart as your new world champion. I'm going to live in your guys' world here, right? So I want it to make sense. So Bret Hart is your world champion. Jeff Jarrett, I believe you guys had him beat Buff Bagwell at that pay-per-view, but I could be wrong on that. But you had him with a win, a big win at that pay-per-view. He's the chosen one by the powers that be. So the next night on Nitro, they're going to give him a world title shot. There's going to be a lot of interference in the match from Creative Control and the heels and whatnot. Just when it looks like Bret Hart's in trouble, I actually have Hulk Hogan coming out to help Bret Hart. It's a little sign of respect. You were the better man last night. I've got Hogan clear in the ring. I've got Jarrett trying to use a pair of brass knuckles against Bret Hart. Bret will get the brass knuckles and hit Jarrett, and Bret Hart will retain the title. But there's going to be a lot of controversy around this match. The powers that be are angry, and they're going to come out and strip Bret Hart of the title and suspend Hulk Hogan. They want Jeff Jarrett to be the champion. They're going to favor Jarrett. So at the pay-per-view, we are going to now have an 8-man tournament with Jeff Jarrett receiving a bye into the second round.
Okay, I like that booking a lot. I mean, if the purposes for you is to get the tournament still going, I know you're kind of a fan of this tournament concept for this pay-per-view. I was basically of the assumption when we booked Halloween Havoc that I was just quite pleased with the fact that we finally got that definitive Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart match.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to go into the pay-per-view with the tournament, then I'm fine with this booking. It makes sense. I think it kind of helps establish Russo as well as someone who's going to be abusing his power and asserting his dominance. Obviously, favoring Jarrett makes sense. Them both coming in from the WWF roughly around the same time. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I want to run with this tournament. I think that I love the tournament concept. I think if they're booked properly, they can be done really well. So now you've got kind of your targets going into the tournament. Bret Hart's going to be a target of the creative powers. Hulk Hogan is suspended, so he's not even in the tournament. And obviously Chris Benoit is going to be on the radar as well because he's the top dog. So you want to give Jarrett the advantage heading in the tournament because he's the heel. So let's put a little heat on Jarrett, and it puts your power figure over as your top heels as well, right?
Yeah, that works 100% for me. So what do you have as your opening contest for the pay-per-view?
So my opening contest is going to be Chris Benoit going one-on-one with Dr. Death Steve Williams.
Wow. And this is a tournament match, correct?
This is a tournament match, yeah. So the first 1, 2, 3 matches on my card are tournament matches because Jarrett has the bye into the second round. I just think these guys would have a really fun match. I know Doc was not in his prime at this point, but he could still go. I think you're going to get, I don't want this to be crazy. Maybe just an 8-minute, really Japanese strong style match because both these guys have the Japanese background in them. I just think they would have a hell of a match. And for me, from a booking standpoint, they were booking Doc as a monster at this point, as kind of like a bodyguard figure, but they were having him crush guys all the time, big suplexes. So I feel like the powers that be would want Doc to really loosen up Benoit for the next round or, whatever, right? But I've got Benoit going over, but he gets his ribs hurt in this match, so he's going to have his ribs taped up going forward, and it's going to give us Benoit and Jarrett in the second round. Okay,
so you got the classic tournament injury angle going on there, which I like. Is Doc accompanied by Oklahoma or no?
No, I hated that. It was terrible.
Oh, okay, good. I am very happy to hear that. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's not what I expected. I didn't think I'd be hearing Dr. Death's name on this. I mean, it didn't even cross my mind. So I don't hate that. I mean, I think it'd be a real hard-hitting kind of car crash of a match. So I'm good
That's
with that.
kind of what I wanted. I didn't think I was going to have Doc on this card either, and I went back and looked at the roster, and around this period, the as much as they had a lot of talent on their roster, there wasn't a lot of guys to work with that would get this concept over a little bit. And I just thought Doc and Benoit would be great.
Yeah. I'm all for that. I think it's a good, solid choice, and I like the unlikely nature of it. So I'm all for that. What do you have next on your card?
So the next match, we're gonna have a tournament match. I don't know if you want to say what was next on the real card or whatever. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I got through. I got thrown off by that Doc match. The next match on the card is Evan Courageous with Medusa going up against Disco Inferno for the Cruiserweight Championship. I'm quite certain this has changed.
Yeah, it's gone as well.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Your next match you said was a tournament match, correct?
Yeah, so I've got a tournament match between Kurt Hennig and Diamond Dallas Page.
I like that a lot. I love that you have Hennig in the tournament, and it makes sense for DDP. He wasn't doing a whole lot right now at this time, so walk me through it.
I got Hennig going over. Again, these are tournament matches, so they're not going to be overly long. 7 to 10 minutes for most of these first round matches, just because you can't run a 5-hour show, right? I'm going to have both guys kind of fighting on the outside of the ring. Like, it's going to start out kind of babyface, but, going to get more aggressive. You know how like they do those like slow turns during a match? I got Hennig getting a little bit more aggressive during the match. They start brawling on the outside of the ring. Hennig rolls into the ring at about an 8 count. Dallas gets up on the apron as he's stepping through the ropes to get in the ring. I've got Hennig kicking the ropes into his crotch, kind of a heel move there, and I got him hitting the Hennigplex for the win.
Nice. I like that. I like that you're putting Hennig over DDP, who clearly at this point was probably the more established, not established maybe, but the more established main eventer in WCW in 99 was DDP over Kurt Hennig. I also hate the fact that we saw this Buff Bagwell Kurt Hennig retirement match. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
So I am all for this match, and I love that Hennig's going over. I will take a Hennig winning any day, twice on Sunday. So I am perfectly content with that.
Yeah, that one was for you, Tyrone.
Yeah, I mean, well, you need some momentum before he wins the 2002 Royal Rumble. So.
100%. We got to build him strong. Maybe Kurt Hennig's going to be your world champion by the end of the night. Who knows?
I would be actually okay with that. The next match on the card is Norman Smiley defeating Brian Knobbs for the Hardcore Championship, which again I'm assuming is not happening.
No, this is the last tournament match.
Yeah, but the next match on your card is a tournament match. So maybe
between Norman Smiley and Brian Knobbs.
Pardon?
I said between Norman Smiley and Brian Knobbs. This was a barn burner. I had to keep it.
This was a tournament match.
No, I'm kidding. This is not on my card. This is gone. The last tournament match is between Bret Hart and Sting.
Okay.
And I'm leaving it the exact same as they did it on the pay-per-view, because I know you guys kind of have Sting and Luger with a little bit of beef going into Halloween Havoc. Tyrone said that Sting laid out Luger after, what was it, Fall Brawl? I don't know, whatever pay-per-view you guys did there. But I know you guys got some beef with Sting and Luger going in your little Marvel Universe of booking here. So I let Luger get involved in the match and get laid out. And I got Bret Hart going over Sting.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. You know what? In fact, thinking about this now, I might be wrong, but I kind of feel like this was maybe the best match Sting and Bret ever had. I was never particularly enthralled with that angle or that feud. I mean, we saw it at Halloween Havoc 98 as well. I don't know. I guess it's because maybe they both have the same finishers, or I don't know what, but it was never a match that I was like really clamoring to see. But this match at Mayhem 99 was really good, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I really like this match a lot. And I'm the opposite of you. I really wanted to see Bret and Sting have a good feud. I really think that there was something that they could have done that was a lot better than what we were given.
Yeah, that's fair. It's the same sort of thing with The Undertaker and Sting. And a lot of people think it's the match that we all wanted to see that never happened. It's not a match for me that I ever was, again, craving or, salivating to see. For me personally, sure, would I have loved to have seen it? Of course. I mean, if it had happened at WrestleMania, it would have been a great build, I'm sure, and it would have been a fun match. but I'm not heartbroken whatsoever that we never saw it.
Yeah, I never really cared about Taker and Sting, to be honest.
Okay, so now that we've established some of our tournament matches here, we're going to get back to the regularly scheduled programming of the card, I believe.
Yeah,
on the card is Revolution, Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Asia, accompanied by Shane Douglas, defeating the Filthy Animals, Eddie Guerrero, Billy Kidman, and Tori Wilson, accompanied by Conan. Now, this is an intergender elimination tag team match. Easy for me to say. And I'm curious to see what you've got here.
I actually really, really like this match. I thought it was a fun match, but I have changed it to just kind of a standard tag team match instead. I'm going to get rid of the Asia Tori Wilson element to it, even though I thought they did a fantastic job in the match. And from a time standpoint, I don't have time to keep an elimination match on my card now because I've got the tournament instead. So I just made this a basic tag team match between Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko against Kidman and Rey Mysterio.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. I like that a lot. It would have been a really good match.
And, you know, I'm going off. You guys had Eddie and Saturn at Halloween Havoc, so you've got your Filthy Animal Revolution kind of feud still going here. I could even make this a 6-man tag and put Eddie and Shane Douglas in there. I know Shane Douglas was hurt at this time, but he could just stand on the apron. So take your pick on that. Regardless, I'm going to have the faces go over clean with a shooting star press. We need some babyface love going on in this card a little bit here.
Yeah. I'm all for this. I think this is a great way. You know, we've talked so many times, Tyrone and I have, about ebbs and flows on a card. So you've now had these three tournament matches, and now you're bringing in some more high flying action, maybe a faster paced match than what we were going to see the last few matches. So I'm all for this. It's a great way to kind of bring the crowd back up after a few technical matches. So that makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, you know, just something a little different, right? We've had, like you said, the hard hitting match with Williams and Benoit. We had a technical one with Brett and Sting, and we had a little bit of a brawl with Hennig and DDP. So let's get some high flying going here before we get into the next part of the tournament, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that you're right on the money with that one. So as we progress through this card, the aforementioned Buff Bagwell versus Kurt Hennig match, which was a retirement stipulation, that's obviously no longer happening. So I'm just curious to see what you placed. Do you have another buffer between tournament matches, or are you?
No, we're gonna pick right back up into the tournament here. We got Jeff Jarrett going 1-on-1 with Chris Benoit.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of similar to the match that you saw in the actual pay-per-view, but the finish is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have Creative Control getting involved in this match with a lot of interference. They want to give Jarrett the advantage here. Just when it looks like Benoit is about to lose, you're going to hear some very familiar music hit the stage. Voodoo Child is going to hit, and Hollywood Hulk Hogan is going to come walking out. And he's going to take out Creative Control in the entranceway, a couple punches to one of them, a body slam to another one. Jarrett is going to be just livid about this. He's going to be distracted. It's going to allow Benoit to come up from behind and hit a German suplex and steal the win. So Chris Benoit will be heading to the finals of the tournament. Hogan's going to get a little bit of heat back, but he's coming back with an edge to take on the heels here. Not yellow anymore. We're bringing out Hollywood Hogan because he's going to get serious here.
Okay, that's interesting because, you know, of course, the famous Bash at the Beach 2000 match happened about, I guess 8 or 9 months after this particular pay-per-view, and that would be Hulk Hogan's last appearance in WCW. So interesting that you're kind of planting seeds here. I don't know if you're going to go into a full-fledged Jarrett Hogan feud here, or if you're going to have, you know, Hogan run the gauntlet or what have you. But I think that's an interesting booking choice. I don't hate the idea of having Hogan come back. Now, we had just seen him turn back to the red and yellow, I believe, in August of 1999. So it's another quick switch back to the other character. But with that being said, I do think in the confines of 1999 WCW booking, that wouldn't have made a lick of difference. You know, it might have been that they.
I was just going to say, the best part about booking this time period is you can always just go, well, it's WCW 99. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, you're true.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
so I've got it built
red
in
and yellow and Hollywood in the same night. So, yeah, I like that. I think it's a good way, as you said, to get some of Hogan's heat back. Also a good way to advance Benoit in the tournament. And there's a built-in story. So if you do end up having, let's say, Devil's Advocate Benoit walk out with the title, you have a built-in, you know, number one contender for him right there after the rematch from whomever he beats in the tournament. then you have a built-in adversary for him right there with Jarrett. So that all makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next match on the card, sorry, you can go ahead and say what was next on the real card there.
Well, the next match on the card was going to be Bret Hart defeating Sting by submission in a semifinal match, but obviously we've already seen that. So I'm just curious what's next.
Well, normally in real booking, you would have the next semifinal match here, but I'm going to do a little bit of creativeness here. The powers that be were really expecting Jarrett to win this match, and they wanted to give him a little bit more buffer time in between his matches. So there's actually going to be a number one contender match here instead of the next tournament match.
Okay, number one contender for the
world title. Sorry, it's going to be a tag team title match.
Oh, okay.
I mixed up my order there. So we're gonna have a tag team title match here coming up next. It's gonna be the Outsiders going 1-on-1 with Harlem Heat.
Okay. Yeah, I fairly newly reunified Outsiders. They hadn't been together for some time at this point. They were just, if I remember correctly, if memory serves, they were doing a lot of stuff just sitting in the front row, with the fans at ringside.
Yeah.
Both of them wearing their obligatory, sports jerseys and, drinking soda or pop or probably beer and just sort of lambasting whoever was in the ring. So they were working on getting these guys together back into the kind of the trying to get the lightning back in the bottle that they had back in 96. And so I think it's a good way to do it is have them go up against Harlem Heat. That makes sense to me.
Well, this is going to be a little bit more of an angle than a match as well. Because I'm going to have Jarrett still in the ring, pissed off after his loss with creative control. As Harlem Heat is walking out, as Jarrett is walking to the back, they're gonna lay out Harlem Heat. They're gonna take out their frustration on him. They're really gonna do a number on him. Steel chairs, beating him down, and they're just going to throw him in the ring, and the Outsiders are going to have easy work, maybe about 3-4 minutes before we get new tag team champions.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. We had just seen Harlem Heat as well. That was another team that was reformed, I think towards the beginning of the summer of 99, giving them another title run before they would kind of have their definitive singles careers. I mean, obviously we'd seen Stevie Ray in the NWO and Booker T singles as a face. By the time we got to 2000, we didn't really see much of Stevie Ray. Booker T was obviously on his trajectory to win the first World Heavyweight Championship of his illustrious career. So I think it kind of makes sense when you have this historic tag team like Harlem Heat, if you're going to have them kind of go, I guess, if you're going to have them do the job to someone, it's either should either be this Hall and Nash situation where you're going to reunify this tag team that really revolutionized the company, or have them, do the job to some young up and coming stars. So either way, I think you're good, and I think you did well here.
Yeah, and it's plant seeds, right? You can spin off Harlem Heat and Creative Control. You can spin off Booker T and Jarrett. You can do some 6-mans with Hogan and Harlem Heat against Jarrett and Creative Control. You can go Harlem Heat with the Outsiders and Unfinished Business. It gives you a lot of options to work with for the next couple months.
Just got to make sure that they don't cut promos together.
Absolutely. There will be no promos being cut together. Not Hogan and Booker T.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's all good with me. So I'm just curious. So the next match on the card is Vampiro with Jerry Only. I don't even know who that is. Defeated Berlin with the Wall in a dog collar match. Now, I remember Tyrone saying in his Halloween Havoc booking he was going to do a Rick Steiner and Vampiro dog collar match. Don't know if that's where you've gone with this, but curious to see what your trajectory is next.
No, I didn't. I wanted to just leave this match on as it was, just because I'm in it, and that made me happy. But I scrapped it.
Yeah.
I scrapped it. I got rid of it, and in its place, it's going to be the next semifinal match. This one's for you, Bret Hart versus Curt Hennig. It's going to be our next tournament semifinal match, and I'm just going to give these guys 23 minutes to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. We had spoken off air last night about that, and I was saying I really hope I get to see Hennig and Hart one more time.
Yeah,
Their
you
match.
did have a good idea too about having recreating some of that King of the Ring '93 tournament. I did put some thought into putting Bret Hart and Scott Hall together in the opening round, but I just like that Sting match too much to get rid of it. But I did entertain that. That was a good idea you had.
Yeah, I mean, it's always what's old is new again, right? So I think in WCW, like for example, Brett's second pay-per-view match in the company was at Uncensored 98, and he faced Kurt Hennig. And that match was okay. It wasn't anything like what we had seen in years previous, but I kind of feel like if they had some time to prepare, knowing that this match was coming up in Toronto, after everything that had happened to Brett that year and to his family, I just think that a Hennig Hart match here in 1999 would have been for me the match of the night. It would have stolen the
I
show.
think so too. I think they both would have been motivated, and that's something we talked about at the beginning with Bret Hart. I don't think he had the love of the game still. I don't think Kurt Hennig gave a shit about anything at this point. He was collecting a paycheck. He would still, if he had the right opponent in there, he would still go and give it, an old school Mr. Perfect match. But it was WCW. Like the booking was so ridiculous that these guys, a lot of them were just collecting a paycheck. But I think, coming off the passing of Owen, this is going to be Brett's big night. They've had classic matches in Maple Leaf Gardens before. I just think that they both would have been really motivated, and I think Kurt really would have wanted to give Brett a match here.
Well, I was just thinking, like, so had we gone forward, we talked about how you would have booked Brett 99 after this event. I kind of think putting Brett in the West Texas Rednecks would have been pretty fun.
Oh, I love the West Texas Rednecks. They can do no wrong.
No,
they could do no wrong.
Then we would have finally gotten to see Cowboy Bret Hart.
I was gonna say you have to put either Buddy Hart, they call them, Cowboy Buddy Hart, or Lonesome Dove Bret Hart. Either or would work for me.
Yeah, exactly. I guess Aladdin wouldn't really work in there, but
no. And we've got Bret going over here, by the way.
Okay, perfect. No pun intended. I have to say, in terms of their feud, my favorite of their matches was at the King of the Ring '93.
Yeah,
I think
it blows away SummerSlam. Yeah, it blows away.
I completely agree. And SummerSlam gets all the love, but for me, it's 100% '93 King of the Ring. So,
well, the best part about that was their promo before the match too.
Oh yeah,
the King of the Ring.
Yeah,
it's like I still owe you one. My dad could beat your dad up. They're talking about whose dad could beat up their dad. I thought it was so good.
Yeah, listen, Hitman, I owe you. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love this match. Thank you for putting this on here. That's one feud I will never tire of watching or talking about is Hennig versus Hart. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I had to keep it on there for you. I had to.
So with that all being now established, our next match on the card in canon is Ming defeating the Total Package, or as Mean Gene Okerlund would say, Package, with Elizabeth by submission in a singles match. Now, I don't know if this match is staying. I kind of feel like in this era, Lex Luger, he wasn't doing a ton, but just, when I think of the Mount Rushmore of WCW, sometimes Luger's there for me, sometimes he isn't, but he's always close. I mean, when I think WCW, purely WCW performers, Luger's got to be on, counting on one hand, right?
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. He's one of the most overrated and underrated wrestlers of all time. I think that's the best way to describe him.
Yep, 100%.
Well, so, I'm gonna do a little bit of booking on the fly here in honor of Tyrone then, because I must have missed out on the Rick Steiner Vampiro thing. So we're gonna throw it on right here. Rick Steiner Vampiro dog collar match, just so I can be on pay-per-view as well. We're gonna have Vampiro go over because Tyrone loves Vampiro and so do I. But it's just gonna be quick, 4 minutes.
Sounds good. Thunder Bay's finest going over makes all the sense in the world to me. That or no, what am I talking about? That's Vampiro. Sorry, not.
Yeah, Vampiro and Steiner. Yeah, we got Vampiro going over. You got it.
Oh no. Okay, sorry. I think the dog collar match is actually supposed to be Berlin versus Scott Rick Steiner.
We're gonna. Is it? Oh, okay. Well, I'm putting Vampiro in instead.
Okay, well that's fun. See, that's I caught myself there. We are booking up the fly, ladies.
Whatever. This match wasn't even on my original card. It's a bonus for Tyrone. In the real realm, this match is not on my card.
Okay, well that's 100% fine.
Make it a
So,
triple threat dog collar match. There you go.
yeah, that sounds. Oh my god, that sounds almost as good as a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
Tyrone can text us in the winner, and we'll announce it next week.
Yeah, it's a pick your poison.
Yeah, it's
Spin
a
the
pick
wheel,
your
make
poison.
a deal.
Tyrone can pick who goes over. His boy Rick Steiner, the Building Berlin, or his boy Vampiro. It's the Tyrone pick your poison match. All your favorites rolled into one, buddy.
I honestly think the person who goes over is the guy who left to avoid traffic.
I
Probably.
was gonna say the guy that's refilling his beer at the stand is the real winner of that match.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
that
think
match
so.
is not on my card. We're gonna go number one contender match: Bill Goldberg versus Psycho Sid.
Bill Goldberg versus Psycho Sid, number one contenders match. So okay, well the match is already on the card. Is it still an I quit stip or no?
No, it makes no sense. Neither one of these guys do submission holds. I thought that was really stupid to pigeonhole these guys in a submission match. And these aren't the two type of guys that I even see quitting anyways. So like I just thought that really hurt the match. We'll give it like maybe a no DQ or like a falls count anywhere or something to. I know you guys had a stip on the last one. I just can't remember it off the top of my head, but
First blood.
first blood, yeah. So we'll give this one a no DQ match. No DQ. Let these guys beat the hell out of each other. I want to kind of pattern this match after the Goldberg and Brock Lesnar style of match. Just a fast-paced, hard-hitting match. I don't want these guys hitting double digits in numbers because you put Goldberg and sit out there for more than 8 minutes, you're gonna hurt the quality of your match. So let's give them 7 minutes. Let's get them to beat the hell out of each other, and let's have Goldberg be your number one contender.
No, that makes sense. So we're getting the sequel. We're getting Beverly Hills Cop 2 here. We got Beverly Hills Cop at Halloween Havoc, meaning that you're getting a sequel here. I didn't want to put it in the same breath as The Godfather or Rocky or something like that. But yeah, so you're getting the sequel here, and you're going to get just basically more of the same. It's just going to be the same formula, pounding the shit out of each other until one guy, can't kind of answer the 3 count. That makes all the sense in the world to me. It's something we've talked about before, Tyrone and I. I think you and I have talked about it off camera as well, or off the recording. I don't remember much of Goldberg at all in '99. I mean, once he did the job to Nash at Starrcade 1998, his run was so memorable that he had in '98. By the time you get to 99, like other than the Bret Hart thing on Nitro in Toronto, we saw
he was hurt for a lot. Was that 98 or 99 he got hurt? It was 99 he got
99.
hurt, right?
Even still, like
yeah, no, I guess so. I know he fought Kevin Nash at Spring Stampede, and that's pretty much all I can remember about Goldberg in '99.
I remember the steel plate thing from Toronto.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was the best thing Bret Hart ever did in the company.
Agreed.
I remember him doing these 2 matches at Halloween Havoc and Mayhem, and then of course ending Bret's career at Starrcade, and that's it. And into 2000, I remember even less. I actually don't even remember a one match that he had, maybe against
him and Steiner. Him and Steiner had a good one at Fall Brawl, I remember.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so this is my point in all of this is to say that this is what happens when you kill the golden goose. You have Goldberg, who, in my mind, instead of winning the title on a random Nitro, they should have held off that Hogan match to Halloween Havoc, so that way we could avoid that Warrior match too. So you have Halloween Havoc, you have Hogan and Goldberg. Goldberg wins the title there, and then from there you have him run through the NWO for the next year or so. I mean, they killed him off way too soon, and he never recovered from it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. 100% you're right. You will not get an argument out of me on any of that.
Yeah, I think he should have been holding the championship for at least another 6 or 8, maybe even a year. But that's another story for another time. So sorry, you said the winner going over was
Goldberg.
Okay, damn it, I was hoping for a Sid number 1 contender, but
okay. I can't do it. At the end of the day, I share a lot of Tyrone's views on Goldberg. I'm not a fan of him, but at the end of the day, you cannot deny that he is a draw. And if you're heading into Starrcade, your biggest event of the year, you want to have one of your biggest guys in the company going one-on-one for the belt.
Yeah, no, I get that. You're right. You're right. When you're right, my friend. And
I hate being right on that one, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you and I are kind of like low key Sid marks. Like you like him, maybe not as much as I do, but I think you appreciate his work and you enjoy. You know, he was. If there was ever a guy, it's been said 1,000 times. If there's ever a guy that looked like the prototypical professional wrestler, it was Sid.
Yeah.
But with that being said, next up on the card, we have scheduled Scott Hall going up against Booker T for the United States Championship. Now, obviously, this isn't happening. What do you have next?
We're actually going to go right to the main event next.
Okay.
I want to give him some time. We're going to go Brett and Benoit for the title. I want to take the match and the blueprint that they had with the Owen Hart tribute match in Kansas City, and I want to put it on this match.
Okay.
I want to take away all the kind of run-ins that were in this match with Malenko and the Outsiders and Goldberg. I want to get rid of all the gibberish and all the BS here, and I want to just have a pure match with two of the best in the world at this time at what they do, and I'm going to have Bret Hart go over for the title.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world to me. I think that the match that actually happened at Mayhem was very good, but I do think that match in Kansas City was just probably Bret's best match in WCW. I can't think of one that would stand out.
It's one of the best matches of his career.
It was a very, very good match. I'm just trying to think about in terms of like 97 Bret. Like, would you say that the last match that he had that came close to that was the submission match?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. Yeah. 97 Bret. That Canadian Stampede was good. Him and Taker was good in 97, but yeah, you know, after his WWF run, you can't really think of a lot of great matches in Bret's career.
No, and I mean, I would put. I know I'm in the minority, but I would put that Bret and Undertaker SummerSlam match as like my top 5 SummerSlam main events ever. So, but I mean, the point being that there weren't that many matches to write home about with Bret in WCW. So this for sure would have been his best match in WCW, and to kind of swap places and put that in its place for the Mayhem card makes all the sense in the world to me. And I think that's exactly what we needed for this card, was to have that kind of match. I mean, not to take away from the match that actually happened, but to have that match from Kansas City kind of transplanted on top of this one. And then I guess in a way, kind of what you're saying is you want to kind of amalgamate the two.
Yeah, you know, I just want to have them have a match similar to they had in Kansas City compared to the run-ins and the BS in Toronto. I want them to put some shine on the belt. And if you're going to give Bret Hart a chance here to be your world champion and to build back credibility to him, this is the way you have to do it. You can't have any BS in here. You know, you have him with a great match against Sting. You have him with a great match against Hennig. And then you have him with a great match against Benoit. Let him shine in the ring. Let's let Bret Hart do what he does best here, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you booked this pay-per-view like a king of the ring. So you get a lot of tournament stuff. You get a couple of matches in between to give the guys a break. But the emphasis is on the tournament, and it's not on all the other WCW, convoluted bullshit that would have been going on at the time.
Yeah, save it for Nitro the next night when they can ruin everything.
Exactly. So I'm all for this. I think
so. You've got a lot of ways you can go coming into the next pay-per-view now with Starrcade. You got Goldberg and Bret you can do on top. You can still switch that out. You can have the powers that be screw Goldberg and take that number one contender away. You can put Jarrett in there. You got Jarrett and Benoit in the back burner. You got Jarrett and Harlem Heat. You got Jarrett and Hogan. You've got Harlem Heat and Creative Control. What are you going to do with Hennig coming off his loss? You could put him and DDP back together because he kind of low-blowed him and cheated. You got Sting kind of floundering with Luger there. It's opened up a lot of possibilities for the future pay-per-view.
Yeah, 100%. You could even go and get a shovel and dig up Ric Flair from the Nevada desert and have him come out.
Yeah, I thought about putting him in this tournament too, but I wanted to give Jarrett the bye. Originally, I wanted to do another tournament where I had Kidman kind of doing the 1, 2, 3 kid spot where he'd get a win and get really hurt. You know what I mean? But I just think it made more sense with Jarrett getting a bye into the second round.
Yeah, no, I think so too. From a creative standpoint and from a booking standpoint, to show that he has some, quote unquote stroke makes a lot of sense to me. So, all in all, I think you did a great job. You cut a lot of the fat off this card. I think that you kind of streamlined it and you made this card something that I would have loved to have gone back and watched. I mean, if this was actually what had happened, it probably would have been one of my favorite WCW events ever. So, and I just love the emphasis on the tournament. So I think that you've done great here, and I'm all for all the booking. There's nothing here that you've done that I really disagree with, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that you would like this one. I think even Tyrone would like this one, except for Brett going over. Obviously, that will bother him. But I got some of his boys on the card. We let Henning shine a little bit. We have our fake Vampiro match just to make you happy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. And you guys have kind of inspired Mike and I a little bit on the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast here. If I can do a segue into a cheap plug, Mike and I on Count It Out, we kind of did this little fantasy roster, like this fantasy draft thing over on our show, where we drafted our own rosters, and we thought it would be fun to fantasy book cards going forward. So every Wednesday on the Count It Out channel, where you're listening to this, check out Showtime with Mike and Tyler, and listen to us book our fantasy rosters and building up to events and stuff. Every other week, Mike and I will alternate. So on Count It Out, if I'm doing a list on Showtime, Mike will do a fantasy booking card.
Okay, interesting. So the rosters themselves, is it just anybody in the history of wrestling, or is it?
It's modern wrestling. So anybody that is a wrestler right now, it can be any promotion. So on my roster, I've got kind of like it would be like if AEW and SmackDown had sex, you would get my roster pretty much.
Okay.
Mike has got a lot more of a GCW independent feel to his roster. He's gone on a smaller scale. He's got a lot of some independent talent, as well as guys like Josh Alexander and AJ Styles. He's going for more of like the Ring of Honor feel to his roster. It's really fun because Mike and I both have totally different views on the world of wrestling, but we both have the same respect level for wrestling, and we can call a spade on a good product. So it's fun. Mike's got AJ Styles on top of his promotion. I've got a faction with Kenny Omega, Walter, and Nova and Don Callis in my promotion. So it's fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I have to make sure we check that out. And of course, the Classic Match Classroom is really taking off. It's a lot of great, interesting listening on that particular one. I love to see you educate young Anthony. He is such a mark for the business, and I mean that in the best possible sense. I've recorded with him myself. I've had the fortunate happenstance to be able to do that on my end, and a better guest you could not find. We've been so fortunate to create here on the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast relationships with people like Anthony from the Titantron, like Nick from the Universal Wrestling podcast, and of course our most recent guest was James from that 90s wrestling podcast as well. And all of our guests have been so receptive to both my content here, or our content here on the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, as well as the Count It Out 7. So we're really synergizing and bringing a lot of fun elements. With all that being said, I just think that people have to go out of their way to see the Classic Match Classroom. It's such a fun ride to see you educating a younger fan, younger than us anyways. He's probably 15 or 18 years younger than me anyways. And see you educate him about matches that I grew up watching and you grew up watching, and we hold in such high regard. So anybody out there listening who hasn't had a chance to check out the Classic Match Classroom, please go out of your way to see it. And Tyler, where can they find the Classic Match Classroom?
You can find it on YouTube and on Spotify if you just type in Classic Match Classroom. I think Twitter is at CM Classroom, not to be mistaken with CM Punk, as Anthony always says. And we're on Instagram too. I believe it's Classic Match Classroom. I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, we cover everything, man. We've done a lot of WWF 97 lately, but we've done WCW. We've gone back and done Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter's boot camp match. We did Snuka Morocco in the cage. We've done the Mega Powers Explode. As this week is recorded, we have just dropped Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero from Halloween Havoc. And it's going to follow into a 2-part series that we're doing. Halloween special on the debut of Kane leading up to Hell in a Cell. And then the next week on the anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob, speaking of Bret Hart, we're doing Sean and Bret. So a lot of fun stuff on the Class Match Classroom.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that you guys have been really hitting on some great feuds. I am eagerly anticipating the Jim Ross and Michael Cole classic match classroom, but
Oh,
we'll
of
see when we
course,
get to
of
that.
course.
I
That's
want to
definitely
talk
going to
about
be
those.
next on the list.
Yeah, the country whip and strap match would be a real barn burner to talk about.
While we're plugging stuff too here, obviously everybody knows Count Out with Mike and Tyler because you're on our channel right now, so I don't need to go over that one. But tune in to Barry Wrestling next, I guess this Thursday, as this episode will drop on November the 11th. The countout7.com bracket will be on YouTube. I believe it's $10. You get the whole tournament. Support some great local wrestling. It's been really exciting to work with Barry Wrestling and with Sean Gibson. And please, guys, check it out. We're really excited to have our tournament our name as part of this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the opportunity to do some work earlier in the year, getting prepared for this particular tournament as well, and it was just a joy to work through and obviously be affiliated with such a great promotion with great values as well. I think that they're trying to really bring some great in-ring action, but also trying to make it friendly for all the family. It's not necessarily anything that's too edgy or too over the top in terms of you can bring your kids to see it. I think it's a really fun example of how wrestling is done very well and bringing it back to a place where, it's something that both adults and kids can enjoy, right?
100%. It's and just kind of, we always have a table set up at their shows, and getting to know the workers on the show and watching the teamwork and the camaraderie. It is a family atmosphere, both backstage and out front. The in-ring work is fantastic. Some of the best independent talent in the Toronto scene. If you are able to check it out, I highly recommend checking it out. And if not, if you can't get to Barrie, if you live in the States or you live wherever you're listening to this, just check them out on YouTube at Barrie Wrestling. The talent is fantastic on this company.
100%. And if you do live in the Barrie area or the Greater Toronto area, make sure you stop by and visit with Tyler. He'd love to have you put him through his merch table. So
yeah, buy a t-shirt.
Buy a t-shirt and then put him through the table it's resting on.
That's right. That's
right. 100%. So, well, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are once again on the path to card subject to change, which basically means for us that it's no holds barred. The gloves are off. We don't know what's coming next. Could be another watch along. It could be another rebooking, perhaps a to Count It Out 7 list, which we have been borrowing from time to time from your show, Tyler.
The royalty checks are in the mail, right?
That's right. Absolutely. It's like the Jerry Seinfeld super terrific happy hour checks. You get like 8 cents. So we don't really know what's coming next in terms of, and you know what, we have some exciting stuff coming up on tap as well. We are toying around with the idea of maybe even doing some non-wrestling content just to give a little bit of variety, trying some new stuff. I have some other interests other than wrestling. Obviously, wrestling is our foremost number one important subject to cover on this podcast, but it might be fun to explore other avenues, other universes. And I know Tyler and I have had conversations off air about potentially venturing out of the world of wrestling and into other worlds as well.
Absolutely, man. The sky is the limit when the card is subjected to change.
That is it. So, Tyler, do you want to just hit us with your social media handles one more time?
Everything can be found at www.countout7.com. Everything.
Absolutely.
Including this show.
Pardon?
Including this show.
Yes. www.countout7.com. And for us, you can find us on Instagram at good_enemies and on Twitter at good_enemies. And for myself, for Tyler, for WCW Mayhem 1999, for Vampiro, for dog collar matches, for tournaments, and for JR's barbecue sauce. Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Good Friends, Bad Enemies podcast.